nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast, affiliated with the Scottish Rugby blog, of course. It is myself, John Anderson, in the hot seat. Good to see a few people joining us live tonight already. If you're listening to this on your podcast journey to work tomorrow morning, happy Friday. But those of you joining us live, you're in for a barnstorming episode tonight. We are joined tonight by none other than Ian Hay himself, resplendent in your Warriors jacket.
Yeah, well, you know, it's getting chilly out, so I thought I needed extra layers.
Obviously, not turning the heating on for obvious reasons.
Well, the heating is on.
Is it on? Okay.
But I've gone a bit close to a radiator now, so it's getting too hot. So might be a costume change.
It's one of the good things about
and have like 5, but.
My desk actually sits right next to a radiator, so I turn the heating on just a tiny bit, and I'm sitting here like going. Exactly. And we're also joined by sneaking in. We had plans. We had plans, Craig. We were going to just use that first 15 minutes just to get all the slander in there, and then have you join us. Welcome, Craig. Thank you for joining us on time. How the hell are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much for, well, you can get the slander in. You can just get the slander in anyway. It hasn't stopped you before. It hasn't stopped you before, to be honest with you. But
I would point no, what top you wearing tonight?
This is How Harlequins tonight. Just a t-shirt. Was up at coaching, but I wasn't coaching the Quins. I was actually up at the under-18s, but they had their game cancelled for this weekend, so it was more of a bit of a game of touch rammy with the under-16s as well. So I got to say, I tell you what, I'm going to take Boy Wonder home because he's out for 8 weeks with a torn calf. So he wanted to go up to see his teammates and everything, and then he stood there in the shorts and said, "I'm freezing." Well, no wonder. It's just about 0 degrees out there. So
it is November the 3rd, and it is very cold outside.
That's never stopped a forward before, though, has it?
To be fair, it hasn't stopped many rugby players over the years, but Craig's absolutely right. Sometimes, ambition outweighs talent when it comes to being cold. So I think you have to, really rein that in, especially if he's got an injury. So get him on the heat packs, and he'll be back fighting fit in no time, I'm sure.
Well, he's got a boot on. He's not appreciating me calling him RoboCop.
Has he got a little water pistol that he's like plugged into his boot yet? Because I always imagined if I had an injury like that, I would definitely do that.
Something like that. Anyway, it's the whole thing of I'd buy that for $1.
And then just whipping the water pistol. Yeah. So those of you who are younger listeners will not be not aware of these references, but yes. We tend to go slightly niche on this podcast. But tonight we will be talking rugby. We'll be talking about the weekend's fixture, the dramatic Scotland-Australia fixture that has caused... do you know what? I thought Scottish rugby fans... I thought they cared. I genuinely did. I thought they actually cared. And then I saw the reaction online and I realised, do you know what? There was barely any interaction whatsoever. It was so quiet on social media this weekend.
I think we're just so used to it now. It's like all of our disappointment has been outpoured previously. We're just dry husks of disappointment.
So we'll cover that, and then we'll come to the team for the weekend, and we'll have a wee look at that as well. Obviously, if you're joining us, hello, welcome, good evening. Some of you may indeed be our Patreons. Yes, you pay for the privilege of this. That is magnificent. Thank you for your support. If you want to join our Patreon, head over to patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast, where you can get exclusive content for £3 a month, including what I imagine might actually be a record-breaking Hands on the Ruck tonight. I've got a feeling tonight might break the record for swear words. I'm going to track it, and I'm going to just listen back to a few fairly sweary episodes and just confirm whether it is a record breaker or not. But I think we might be on for a record tonight. I get the feeling, Ian, you might have some passion, some ire to share with the world, and Craig, I know you do, buddy. I know you do. So we've got some swearies coming at you in Hands on the Ruck. You also, for your £3 a month, get access to the super secret Facebook page, which I'll not tell you the name of, because if you don't have a Patreon membership and you try to join it, I am going to reject you. So soz, lol. But I have a list. I checked it twice. I know it's not that time of year, but that's where we're at.
I mean, the Christmas movie channel started in September, John, so it is that time of year.
Right, fair enough, right? We're all good then, right? Okay, so Santa Claus here is going to make sure you get your access to your Hugh Dans or not. If you are a Patreon, please check your messages if you haven't already. If you want access to the Facebook page, I've sent you a link, I've sent you a message. Please just jump on there and join us. It'll ask you for a super secret password. I think you all know what it is, so, go for it. And you'll see if you get access or not. So don't disappoint me, boys and girls. But yeah, that is the sales pitch for tonight. Let us move on to some rugby. We've managed 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes without rugby. Let's just cover a wee bit of news, first of all. We've got a couple of injuries. A couple of people succumbed to injury over the Scotland squad. Sam Skinner and Dave Perry have left the squad and replaced by...
Is that him or is that me?
No, it's him again.
It's him again.
So Dave Cherry has been replaced by Fraser Brown.
Yeah.
Who's replaced Sam Skinner?
It's Richie. No, who came in? Hodgson.
Jamie Hodgson.
So, but also, I was just laughing actually because I was thinking, you've got. We thought we had penalties. We thought our discipline was bad on the weekend. Bring on Fraser Brown. Come on, son. Let's go. Show the boys exactly how to give away some penalties.
Yeah, so he likes a good obstruction, a good line obstruction, and also a no arms tackle aiming at the shin. That's his two specialties. It's his unlockable moves. John seems to be back. Is he? I don't know. We just need to chat amongst ourselves, Craig.
We certainly will. I guess the news. That's the two news. Sam Skinner didn't look too good. I don't know what exactly that was. Was that a concussion or was it an actual injury?
No, I think it's a leg injury. I'd actually been looking it up. I'm sure John has all this stuff saved. That's why he was left in charge, but because he's not put in enough money in the meter, Skinner's good. But of course, I was
messaging constantly down to him. Sorry, go in.
Yeah. Well, Brown's not in the match day 23, but we'll just move on to the match day squad, will we? Shall we?
Yeah, we may as well. Well, we could talk about Edinburgh's win at the weekend against Cardiff. That was quite magnificent.
We'll look back on that later. Because I really feel that John should be involved in that kind of conversation. Yeah, I watched it earlier today. It was very professional away performance, we'll say.
Well, it was quite a significant for me, that's a sort of game we would usually lose. So it was quite a significant win for us, I think, and it gave the a lot of the guys who maybe get brought out and wheeled out when they don't have their Scottish internationals. They give them a real boost to say, actually, these guys are at the right level, if you know what I mean. So but I'm sure we'll talk about it later on once John's out of broadband jail. And we'll see what happens. But match day 23 for Scotland v Fiji. Exciting.
Okay, so change at fullback as we expected. What with the Australia game being out the test window, Stuart Hogg, former captain Stuart Hogg, in at 15 for Ollie Smith, and I suppose it's the headline grabber. Adam Hastings is in for Kinghorn. Hastings was just off scoring a 50-metre drop goal for Gloucester and another win at the weekend. So, Craig, what do you think about Kinghorn dropping down to the bench at 22 and Hastings coming in?
It's one of those things, isn't it, Ian? Obviously, everyone's expecting me to sit and go, it's a travesty, it's ridiculous, it's terrible, etc., etc., etc. I think I'm sure we're going to go into the game itself further down the line, but I think the bottom line is Blair Kinghorn doesn't kick for Edinburgh, or kicks very rarely for Edinburgh. We were exposed on the weekend, although he played incredibly well, and I'm sure I'll go into that further down the line. But if we don't have any other kickers or anyone else that can step up to take clutch kicks, of course you're going to put Hastings in, because he is, he is a very, very good kicker as he stands. So, and has been kicking well for Gloucester. So it's disappointing for Blair, and I'm sure it is, and I'm sure he's getting a bit fed up of getting the opportunity and then getting slapped down again. But I think it's the right thing to do, and it would be really good to see Hastings get his chance.
He's had 5 in a row. I mean, that's
he's back. He's back to interject about Blair Kinghorn. Have you noticed this, Ian? He magically fixed his broadband for when Blair Kinghorn.
I had to go around the house and turn everything off. I've got really good broadband. I will, as part of this podcast, I will put a screenshot of my broadband as it's meant to be. My upload speed seems to have absolutely died once again. It says the server's in Dublin though, so I think there might be a conspiracy here. That's all I'm saying. Kinghorn said 5 in a row, so you can't go saying, he must be getting tired of getting slapped down. He's had 5 in a row. Townsend said, we're loving what he's doing at 10. I think, it's absolutely right. Hastings gets a run. And whether it's a reaction to the weekend or not, you have to have a goal kicker on the park. That's the kind of, you don't win test matches without a goal kicker. You might win against Fiji without a goal kicker, but you're not going to win big games. And that was evident at the weekend. We'll come on to that in due course. But I think Hastings,
Don't get me wrong. I think Hastings has worked hard, gone away with his pointers in his wee book that Tooney gave him, and he's
found some form. You mean? And
found some form? Would you believe? More on that later, I'm sure. But I think Hastings has been superb for Gloucester. Yeah. So he absolutely deserves his place. And I'll tell you one thing: the one person that's going to be I don't think he'll actually care, but actually the one person that the Scottish fans will be worrying about is the said Mr. Russell, because if Hastings comes in and plays an incredibly good game, then is Finn Russell needed, and that'll be the question.
So I've just been on Twitter just prior to the podcast, and I only just came across the SRU's promo stuff for Fiji. And they're sharing the Adam Hastings try when Cats in the Rave was first unleashed in the world. Oh, those heady days, beautiful, beautiful times. But they're basically sharing it as Adam Hastings magic, right? And it's like more magic from Adam Hastings this weekend against Fiji. And I've commented, and quite a few others have commented, going, are we maybe missing one bit of the jigsaw here? Because the magic actually happens before Hastings gets the ball, and he just finishes it. He finishes it very well, to be fair to him. But there's a wee bit of magic just prior to that, and it might be the person that you haven't got in the squad. You're missing out.
You're just like all the other Scotland fans. Leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Let Adam Hastings get his due. Come on.
Well, there's been lots on the internet this week that may or may not be true. So let's leave that there. But yeah, I've got my flight tickets and I'll be checking them. I'll be checking those twice as well. Apparently that's my new thing. But yeah, I'll see how well my connection holds up. Thanks for jumping in, guys. Yeah, I mean the 10 jersey was always going to be the headline, but it's interesting, isn't it, Ian, to look at the strength of that team with the returning, some guys coming back, maybe a wee bit of rejigging of a few things, but ultimately that is a very strong Scotland team. And to put out almost first choice, let's call it that, against Fiji, does that speak to Townsend being under extreme pressure?
I mean, what is really first? Do we know first choice at the moment with what the Tuni Tombola?
I think aside from 10, that's a first choice backline.
Yes, yeah, with Redpath back, Cammy Redpath coming back obviously is a massive boost, and the form that Graham's in at the moment. Although of course him and Doohan saw very, very little of the ball on Saturday.
Let's see if that improves this weekend, shall we?
The only thing, I mean, in the loose, George Turner would be our number one hooker, but his arrows aren't great. To be honest, the Scotland line-out isn't great at the moment. No one seems to be able to throw 90% accuracy you want. So that might explain why we've ended up with two absolute giants in the second row. The return of 6'9" and a bit Richie Gray, and the 6'7" Grant Gilchrist. Workmanlike, I think, is how agricultural is how you'd maybe describe those two. But obviously securing ball is such an important thing. We only made 80% of our lineouts on Saturday, and some at key times. So we'll see how that gets on.
For you, Craig, who's in? So first of all, I confess I don't know. Does Scotland have a line-out coach? First of all, and if they do they do anything? Because the Scottish line-out seems to have regressed once again. We can comment on there is skill parts of this. Like there's people's skill set is coming into it, but it seems like it can't be that. I don't want to say it can't be that hard, but other countries seem to get it okay and don't seem to have quite the issues that we do. Or am I being deeply negative, Craig?
No, I think what you've got to really look at is the line-out has always been a very, very strong part of the set piece for Scotland. Line-out for example, Edinburgh has been very, very good and has started to slip. And I don't know about Glasgow. Glasgow can't throw for toffee if I'm right as well at the moment. So I think it's more the fact of I think it's more the fact that we're because the players that play aren't playing very well in the line outside of things. Then I think that's what's the knock on into Scotland. But that's what I thought it was. I was going to say I think your throwing coach is Scott Lawson. And then so your line out throwing and your specialist skills coach is Scott Lawson at the moment. So he'll be dealing with your line out throws, your line out throw ins. Obviously, you've got Grant Gilchrist, you've got Richie Gray, you've got Johnny Gray, Scott Cummings from the sidelines because I think he's injured, is he not again? With his toe,
broken toe out for the
so you've got you've got Sam Skinner, etc., who are all line out operators. So I don't actually, for example, Ashman Skinner, and Johnny Gray, who have obviously come from Exeter, who have a good line out as well. Or mind you, again, it's failing at the moment as well. So, God, I've gone right around the houses there, John, and given you a big load of words, but not actually an answer. But for me, I think that currently the two Scotland teams aren't performing in the line-out as well as they should be for the people they have in the line-out, etc. So I think Ewan Ashman actually will be a very good addition if he comes on the park. I think if George Turner's not throwing them in very, very straight, then I think you'll probably see Ashman come on, because Ashman's quite good in the loose as well at the moment. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, so Ian, you know I love a personal vendetta on this podcast, and I love to individually single out people for criticism because, you know, I'm all about that life. Would you care to guess when Scott Lawson was appointed?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I mean, it might have been a Tuesday.
2020.
2022. So yeah, 2022.
Yeah,
June 2022, just in time for the summer tour, just in time for our darts to go absolutely down the Swanee. So, you know, it's great that we're employing specialists. We just need to make sure it's not just the same old figures that get the job, and that they actually have the credentials for it. The Scottish line-out, I mean, what will be a recurring theme tonight, and what I'll probably will come on to, is when people have been given responsibility for jobs by coaching teams, by whoever, then it is imperative they actually execute that, and that's the players, the coaches, everyone that's involved in the setup. And you don't just get away with doing half your job. Let's put it that way. So yeah, the Scottish line-out has been a shambles, and I take the point, guys, as well. Glasgow and Edinburgh have both started to struggle in that field as well. But so let's talk a wee bit more about Australia. I don't know Scottish Rugby podcast, but Australia. Ian, they've come north on the back of getting a lot of defeats. Their win record under Dave Rennie is not great. They put out a fairly, it was a fairly mixed side, as we said at the time. There was a bit of experience, lots of youth in there. What should we have beaten them, first of all, and secondary? What do you see this? Can this Australia team do anything this autumn that's going to? Are they going to beat other teams? Or are they going to be looking at a 1-5 and going, well, at least we beat Scotland?
Should we have won? Yes. Some of the decision making at times was weird. Obviously, they're not taking the 3 points right in front of the sticks when we were already a try to the good was a bit mad. And as for Australia, I can't really. I mean, they've got guys like Rob Valentini. I think he's an excellent player, and obviously Hooper's good. Foley, I mean, he dropped out of the team for quite some time. I mean, he's not a particularly great player, is he? I
don't think he's the sort of 10 Australia need with those backs that they've got. That centre partnership. You want a ball playing 10, and Foley's agricultural in his ball playing. Let's put it that way. He's more of a kicking 10.
Hunter Pasami is obviously an attacking threat more than anything. Corey Beattie wasn't he playing, was he?
No, he was. No, he's doing a topping up his bank account in Japan, I think.
Oh, nice. I can't really see them beating anyone else other than us, really.
So riddle me this then, right, Craig? Here's a hypothetical for you. So clearly, what's going to happen here is Australia are going to then fire Dave Rennie before the World Cup, because they're going to come away from the Northern Hemisphere. They're going to have a 20% winning record under them. They're going to fire Dave Rennie. Dave Rennie does have, of course, connections to Scotland. Can we get rid of Townsend before the World Cup?
Yeah, we can get rid of him. I don't think I want Dave Rennie, to be honest with you. And just think, this is going to be in, we'll talk about this in the Patreon, but people need to get into the sea. Keep going on about Scott Robertson. Just settle down, folks. Settle down. So yeah, I don't know. The problem I have is that I think that we had an incredibly good team, even though we didn't have all the English and French players. We had the ability because Australia were absolutely shocking, and we didn't do anything. We went back to it was almost like we'd pressed reset, escape and delete on the old computer system, because we were back at again. We're back and going, recycling the ball in the forwards for about 6 or 7 times before we then either get turned over or knocked on. The backs were screaming for the ball, never came out, and I just, we scored once out of it, but the rest of the times we didn't score, and we could have probably let away 3 or 4 tries within the whole game, that could have been just with poor execution.
So you know what? You know I'm fishing here, Craig, but I'm asking the question. Actually, I think there is a genuine answer to this, but I'll put it in a fishing way so that you can moan at me for it. Whose decision is that the forwards keep that ball? Like, if that's a guy who's got 25, 30 caps at playmaker, does that ball come out to those backs, or are those forwards? Is it the forwards' decision? Is that a forwards issue? Therefore, is it a Jamie Ritchie issue?
I think it falls to the captain. It falls to the coach, and it falls to the captain. It also falls to the 9, because the 9's okay, you're going to have your 10 making your decisions, but I'm sure you're not telling me that any 10 worth of salt isn't wanting that ball out of the ruck, 2 meters from the try line. There's absolutely no way. It needs to be, and I think this is the issue, is that I think our coaching staff think our forwards are better than they are when it comes to rumbling the ball over and going down. What our forwards are not Exeter Chiefs, mind you. They cheated quite a lot about they would latch all the time and rattle through them in the year they won the league, the Premiership. But we've got great forwards, don't get me wrong, but they're better at setting up rucks and moving the ball out into our backs. And if we had what I'm disappointed in, and my biggest take out of it all was I felt Ali Price has slowed down. And if he was back to his old quick ways prior to going on tour with the Lions, I think that ball would have been out a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think the Ali Price one's an interesting one. Sorry, I just seen George Horn's name pop up there as well. I think the Ali Price one is an interesting one, and we've always went through these cycles, Ian, of talking about Scottish 9s. It is the perpetual cycle of Scottish 9s: too fast, too slow, can't control a game. It's almost like we have this let's call it the Venn diagram, shall we? Let's call it the Stern-Venn diagram of like too fast, too slow, where there's never the Goldilocks point of just right. Price to me wasn't helped at the weekend. There was some very messy, like the forwards, the accuracy in the forwards for me was quite at a regional level. I would have been disappointed with some of the accuracy, the way the ball presentation was coming through. There was clearly a game plan as well. So Craig's absolutely right. There was a slow the ball down game plan as well. Price was playing a slow game, but in some cases where the ball could have went, I think Price was quite hampered by the ball presentation. I mean, where do you stand in this, Ian? Like, is that a decision of the backs or the forwards, or is Price playing slow deliberately, or where are we at? What's going on?
Yeah, like you're saying, this perpetual, we all screamed for Ali Price because Greg Laidlaw was too slow, and now Ali Price is too slow, and we want George Horn. Well, I want George Horn.
Jamie Dobby's faster, I hear.
Yeah. There was a couple of instances where like Scotland got into the, took the ball into contact, recycle was fine, and then he was glacial in getting there.
Yeah.
I remember there was one particular ruck. Hamish Watson went to go guard the ruck, and then just like there was a good 3 or 4 seconds where nobody went to join the ruck at all, and nobody was like, "All right, I'll run in and play scrum half." It's like they're all looking about, like, where is Ali Price? Why is he not sprinting in there? It did. I mean, even then, I think he was probably told to try and slow it down, because we did play through the forwards quite a bit, so it was obviously sort of slow it down, let them get into their pod shapes and all that, get everything structured. And that's why we saw very little ball going out wide to Darcy and Doohan. So I think he's probably been told to slow down, but sometimes you wish you would speed it up a bit. I don't think we were pretty bad at. We were always bad at this. Somebody just going off on a charge and getting isolated.
Yeah. We've done that a few times, didn't we? At the weekend, there was a couple of moments where it's, and Craig, you've coached at various levels. You'll know yourself at absolute grassroots, minis level. You're taught, if you make a break, it's not your fault for making the break. If you've got past a couple of people, brilliant. It's your teammates' responsibility to react. And there did seem to be an apathy. There seemed to be an apathy about the whole situation on Saturday.
Funnily enough, that was something I was going to say when you were talking about, and Ian was talking about getting to a ruck. There was what I think, if I remember correctly, Ian, it was down in the corner, down in one of the 22s, and there was a ruck there, and Sam Skinner was looking at the ruck, and Australia were starting to win the ruck, and he was still looking at it, and then eventually chose to go and get into it, and I just But it's got to be game plan, and this is obviously there's apathy. There's obviously people are a bit rusty at international level, so they need to get themselves into things, I suppose. But I really do find it difficult to go past a game plan side of things. I think there's too much. I think it's at a point. I think Ali Price is at a point where he's thinking too much because he's got too much going on in his head. Whereas what you want your 9 to do is see what's happening around him in quick ball away, whether it's going to forwards or whether it's going to backs. I don't mind the forwards rumbling it up a couple of times, maybe even 3. But as we know, all of us as Scotland fans know that the minute we go past four forward plays, that we're clenching our buttocks and we're winking at people, waiting on somebody either turning it over or someone knocking it on. That's
unless we've got Adam Hastings and Doohan on the park and we're in the Stade de France and we're kicking ass there. So maybe this is going to be the solution to all our multi-phase woes. Who'd have thought that Adam Hastings with his beautiful teeth is actually the solution to it all? There we go, we've cracked it. It was quite easy. There's some amazing comments coming in on Facebook at the moment during this podcast. We've got you say you want to speed it up, then you want to slow it down. You can see there comes a time for making your mind up. Yeah, very good, very good.
I'm not taking my skirt off.
No, I've already got mine off, so no stand up. But yeah, I mean, it was the debate on playmakers, like the Kinghorn debate. I thought, so to be very clear, I thought Blair Kinghorn had a very good game as a 10 at the weekend. I thought his distribution was what was asked for. It was adequate. There was a couple of moments where he got a couple of people working. The backs didn't really seem to get enough ball, and when they did, I don't think they done much with it, and that's a collective responsibility. I don't think the centres helped in any way, shape or form, and you can take what you want from that. But ultimately, Ian, I think, again, you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, right, so going to a World Cup, let's say that's a second choice backline for Scotland, minus the Darcy Graham, Doohan on the wings. That's a backline you put out in the dead rubber that you've got in a World Cup that we should, in theory, be not needing to worry too much about. Is this as bad as, like, think about? I was watching a 2007 or 2011 World Cup game. It was the Romania one where we scraped a win at the last. Is that backline, like the way they played? It reminded me of that. Am I being really unfair, or is that what we saw at the weekend?
Maybe a little bit unfair, but because it's obviously much harder, tougher opposition than Romania. With all due respect to Romania, but nothing seemed to work, and I've still no idea what this 2-plot-12 thing's all about. One thing I actually thought of from the weekend was we didn't kick very often.
No.
I've not looked at the stats here, and apparently we kicked the same number of times as Australia, but there was a good few occasions where I'm like, especially with Ollie Smith, he took the ball in, and then it was like, man, just hoof that down the field. You're in your own 22. There's a chance we were getting beaten a bit at the breakdown at this point, and I was like, man, just leather that. But yeah, because none of that backline had have a kicking game. Even with Cam Redpath coming at 12, he can play at 10 as well, so he's got a wee nudge on him.
It's a definite change this weekend. Like there's ball players that can kick the ball now in this weekend. Yeah,
and I was thinking, like, with Australia being, it's not their. Is it their first choice lineup now? Well,
it wouldn't have been. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a first choice team.
Yeah, just and quite inexperienced. Put the pressure on them, pin them back, get them turned. Let's see what they can do from all the way back. Especially with someone like Foley, quite prone to shanking it out.
Loves a shank, loves a drop ball as well, just old Bernard. So, Craig, I'll come on to you. For the last bit I want to talk about the game, right? Obviously, the result was disappointing. Had the opportunity to win it at the end, and nobody's. We'll maybe touch on that in a wee sec, actually, before we finish up on this. But I wanted to talk to you about the impact of the bench. Obviously, the headline coming off the bench, Jack Dempsey. That to me wasn't a bench that was utilised correctly, and that's my personal view. But I want to kind of come to you, and you can talk me through what did the bench have an impact, or could we have done more with it?
Bench had no impact whatsoever. Didn't change the game at all. And this is where I laugh, and we have a joke. You and I have a joke and a laugh about the aged Australian coming on to play for Scotland. But I've seen Jack Dempsey play for Glasgow, and no matter how much I complain and moan about him, he plays incredibly well for Glasgow. He wasn't brought on. I don't think he was brought on. Well, no, he was brought on fairly quick because he came on with the props, the prop change, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's about 60 minutes. He had 20 minutes.
Didn't really, for me, I don't think he made the difference that everyone thought he was going to. I think, but I know where you're going, and I'm about to say something here, and you'll be amazed, but if we have a kicker who has kicked well for his club on the bench, why is he not getting to? Because no disrespect to Blair, because I'm me and Blair and the drinking the Kool-Aid and everything like that. And I want to go back to Blair in a second.
Yep.
But for me, if this was any other game, Ross Thompson would have been on at that time. Because you're going to play and you're going to cap your players that are on the bench. Even if it's 5 minutes at the end, usually that happens. The issue you have is, I've seen it with George Horn, throwing the ball up in the air and waiting to come on and never getting on the pitch. And Ross Thompson wasn't given the opportunity to come on. And whether he gets that or he doesn't get it, I think the odds are more in his favour, to get the kick, considering Blair doesn't kick for his club.
Yeah.
So, but I just, for me, I think the Sam Skinner going off kind of started going off early, started the rot and using how, kind of threw them off how they were going to bring on their subs, etc. I don't know.
No disrespect to Glenn Young, but he's a massive step down from Sam Skinner, and he's a young, or is he a young boy? I hear he's not actually that young a boy, is he? Is he 20?
No, he's 26.
26?
26,
okay.
27. Yeah.
So, I mean, decent experienced boy, but, the drop-off from someone of Sam Skinner's calibre down to Glenn Young, it was noticeable. And obviously, we don't need to go into, maybe come in and hands and ruck into the decision-making around Young and his yellow card and what have you. But the bench for me, wasn't well utilised. And even, I guess it's nothing ventured, nothing gained, isn't it? That you could throw a percentage kicker, and there was two of them on the bench, as Craig, you've alluded to. There was two of them. One of them's kicking very well. One of them's very informed for his club, if we want to use the Townsend barometer of getting picked. Who, yes, nobody's saying actually they would have. So I think the percentage was 73% for kick. The percentages shared on the screen was like a 73% kick to win the game, and Kinghorn was 72%, which I thought was kind, given that he doesn't kick for his club and actually hasn't kicked for a long time, and his percentages have been a bit lower than that for a wee while, purely because he isn't kicking. But you've got an opportunity to win a game, and it must be so demoralising for the players that are sitting on that bench to be like, I could make a difference here. I could be a match winner, no less, and I'm not getting that chance. It's really, really difficult. Right.
If you, just to go back to one thing before the end of it, if you're putting someone on the bench, I was told this many years ago by, funnily enough, George and Pete's dad, when he asked me to luckily I didn't have to play because the game was called off because of frost, but he asked me to go at the age of 44, 45 to come and be on the bench for the senior men as a prop, because we were struggling for prop cover. And I went, I'll come and sit on the bench, that's not a problem. And he says, no, you need to be prepared to come on. I'm not naming you on the bench and you're not being ready to come on the field. You will have to come and play. And as far as I'm concerned, that is, no matter what anybody has to say about Ross Thompson, no matter what anybody has to say about anyone on the bench, I would expect them at an international level to get some game time at some point in the game, because it's an autumn international. It's not as if it's a Six Nations or a World Cup. It's an autumn international. However, I would say that, and there'll be plenty talked about 10, but Ross Thompson coming on at 50 minutes or something like that would not have won us the game. No, he would have. I think that kick may have gone over if it was him. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not stupid, but I understand that. But when I'll talk about Blair Kinghorn further down the line for this next game anyway, and I'll have my points for that.
Yeah, well, let's utilise that to come on to the squad for this weekend. So we've had the squad's been announced. Obviously, the headline that most places are leading with is Blair Kinghorn drops to the bench. I like to think it more as a guy who's been on form gets an opportunity to showcase what he can do in a friendly match. Everybody's going to shout at me for that, but I don't care. So we've got some of the big hitters back. Stuart Hogg's returned. Ollie Smith's dropped out for him. There was calls for Ollie Smith to keep the shirt. I think that was just people being a bit nasty, to be fair. Ollie Smith was decent and scored a decent try, but certainly we've talked, Craig, about the consideration you would have had with Ollie Smith if had he butchered that try scoring opportunity that he got, there would have been words had. So you've got Hogs come back in at 15. Same back two. You've got Darcy and Doohan, new centre partnership in Cam Redpath and Chris Harris, which I would argue is first choice. Adam Hastings at 10, Ali Price at 9. And I'm now going to have to go and look at my list for the forwards. Sorry, guys. So in the forwards, you've got Pierre
Schumann, Turner, Fagerson,
Yep.
Gilco, Richie Gray, Richie Watson, Matt Fagerson.
Yeah, spot on. So that's your starting 15. So a couple of changes. It's not wholesale, but there's a couple of really key leadership positions have changed, and particularly 10 and 12. Craig, I know you're desperate to have your say on this, but what's your view on the team they've put out?
You could very much take that specific team onto a World Cup game and have a decent result. And I want everyone to understand this. And those that have talked with me and thought that I'm Blair Kinghorn or bust, whether it's Finn, whether it's Adam Hastings, Blair Kinghorn is in his right position right now for this game coming up. Blair Kinghorn is an excellent 10 for his club, and I'm not taking it. He has played very, very well for Scotland. He's getting into it, and he's starting to work well as a 10 for Scotland. But he is there to give a second style of 10 when needed. He can cover wing, he can cover fullback if needed. But if you want to come in and change the game, if the team that you're playing is contact heavy, you're going to use Finn to try and get the ball at Finn or Adam Hastings to get the ball kicked over behind them, get them round, get flat passes to players, etc. If the team that you're going up against are a bit tackle shy and can give you some holes, etc., then that's where you've got Blair Kinghorn who can take on those soft shoulders and can burst through. So, there's this whole thing of Finn Russell's the best, he should play all the time. Adam Hastings is the best, he should play all the time. Blair Kinghorn's the best, he should play all the time. Is just the usual guff. You need to use your players as a group. And I think Kinghorn, right at this moment in time, is in the right place. He's on the bench, ready to come on to make a difference. And that's where we have that. That's what we need.
I completely agree, Craig. I think this team looks like a very, very the bench is interesting. You've got Ewan Ashman, Rory Sutherland, Murphy Walker, probably in there, but give Nell the weekend off. I suppose he's not a spring chicken, so it'd be nice to get the wee weekend off for him. But Murphy deserves his chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Johnny Gray returning. It's great to see a player coming back into the setup. Obviously, having been away in Exeter, coming back in at the setup and not coming straight into the team, although there was plenty of arguments he should have. Johnny Gray, we know what Johnny Gray can bring, so impact off the bench up be great. Jack Dempsey getting another shot. I expect to see a lot more from Jack Dempsey. I think the occasion last weekend was so. I think there was rumours that he wouldn't get his cap against Australia and they would defer it to this week, and I think that would have been the right call because the occasion was so strange. Seeing him line it, and it was kind of set up to fail in a lot of ways, particularly after the game. And maybe we'll come on to that and hands it up. But talking to his old teammates and smiling and joking, and what Scottish rugby fans are like. If you crack a joke or smile, hell, Menjay, we don't down with that sort of thing.
This is a very serious game, and we have laws, not rules.
Laws, not rules. Aye, down with you foreigners. And then we've got Ben White, Blair Kinghorn, and Steel Tuipulotu. Now, the thing with Tuipulotu, he does cover 12-13. Do I think he's the best person for that position? No, I think Mark Bennett would be a better choice there straight away. There's probably other 12-13s we could think about. But that bench, Ben White, Blair Kinghorn, Tuipulotu covers all your back positions. There's no reshuffling required in the 15. Which is a great position to be in. So I think that is your point, Craig, you could go to a World Cup game with that, and I would be happy with that as a team. Like, against anyone, actually, I'd be pretty comfortable. Aside from the 10 position, I'd probably still want the name and the 10 shirt slightly changed, but that's okay, because Aaron Hastings will do a fine job at the weekend. Iain, I'll come to you. What's your views on the team? How do you feel about it? Are you excited about this team?
I'm very excited to see Cam Redpath back.
Yeah.
Obviously. Harris, he's all about. He's more the defensive linchpin, but if he gets a head of steam on him, he's quite difficult to stop. It's all just going to depend on what Hastings can do to get Graham and Van der Merwe more involved. Well, not just him, everyone sort of from 10 onwards. Even sort of kick chase wise, because we know how Duhan frightened the life out of South Africa with his kick chase. Didn't even throw any of that in against Australia. I think there was one where he blocked out the sun and an Australian dropped it. So yeah, I am quite excited. Obviously, Fiji, we expect to beat them nowadays. Yeah, I think we should have enough to beat them. But then going forward, there are bigger fish to fry. So this is really a chance, I think, especially for Redpath. This is a chance to cement that 12 jersey, because obviously he's been out injured for the best part of 2 years. So quite excited, but I excited but not optimistic, because optimism never ends well.
Never ends well. I think Redpath doesn't have to do much to keep the jersey, actually, and that to me is really strange. Like, the guy's got the best debut in history, and has become, over the last 2 years, has become mythical in his talents. And
Cammy the Unicorn Redpath.
Cammy the Unicorn Redpath, absolutely. Like, and there's very, very talented people, perhaps guys that are not available actually at 12 just now. But for someone like Sam Johnstone, who we always come back to, Scotland played better with Sam Johnstone in their team. They've always really benefited from having him at 12. And it must be quite galling for a guy like him to be reading the news going, well, I'm out with this facial injury because I get sent in that stupid blooming tour to South Africa, which is ridiculous. And I'm now out. And this young whippersnapper, who we know is all talented and brilliant, is just going to take my place, and I'm not going to get back in the team. And that's probably Sam Johnson's international career done like that. Like, if Redpath goes well, 12 is one of those positions. There's no argument for another person to come in. You don't need another person to come in. So that could be like a lot of 12's career done there and then.
I think what people have to think about, though, is also, if you go back to watch Cam Redpath when he was at Sale, was underused and underperformed. He then was taken down to Bath. And he was a joy to watch at Bath. He still is a joy to watch at Bath. And so, and I would, and people will say I've probably got How of Five glasses on here for a second, but I would argue that Finn and Scotland were better with Pete Horne at 12, or a playing 12, a distributing 12, than a crash 12. And I think Scotland are we started to get really excited about Scotland when they had a distributor 12, and Cam Redpath will give you a mixture of, some crash ball, or at least attacking the line at different angles, but he'll also distribute very, very well and look for gaps, etc. Whereas Sammy J, I've never been convinced with Sammy J. I know you guys are, and that's fair, and I'm not, it's the same with you guys in Blair Kinghorn. I'm convinced with Blair, but that's a different story. I'm just not convinced with Sammy J, and I'll tell you what, I think Tuipulotu, when he's playing at 13, looks really, really good. He's not 12. He's not a 12 in a month of Sundays, is he? He's and I think that's where the block of the ball came. Although that wee move that went to that gave Ollie Smith his try was lovely.
Yeah,
was
and
lovely.
that was probably the two people that I would have said were the blockers in the backline, Blair and Tuipulotu. For me, they were the ending points of a lot of moves, and I know that's going to hurt a lot of Blair Kinghorn fans. It was a tough day for a 10. The weather wasn't great. I don't think necessarily he was given the best ball to play with anyway. So distribution is a problem at that point. And it's interesting, our best move came from those two players who, like, I would have said were the roadblocks. But it'll be interesting to see a whole different dynamic in that back line this weekend. And I think we've all said, you know, there's been lots of comments online already that, you know, Scotland are bringing the fire. There's tries in that back line. They just have to get the ball.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's up to those guys up front. Final point before we move off of free to air and move into our Patreon, where we can finally cut loose and maybe take off some of the Townsend game plan shackles, and we can really start to express ourselves. Jamie Ritchie is captain. Let's throw it out there. First game as captain for Scotland. I didn't think he had that good a game as captain. And I know I'm not saying he shouldn't be captain. I think he absolutely should be captain. I think he struggled with his decision-making. And that is me being kind to other players who maybe did or did not turn down shots at goal that they could evidently have gotten. I don't think Jamie Ritchie had a good game. He didn't control the referee very well. We lost the referee at one point. And I think he will have learned a lot from it. But there'll be better days, put it that way. Ian, thoughts?
I think I thought he communicated all right with Pearce. I think there was one point he was mentioning something, and Luke was like, "Yeah, I get you, Jamie, cool." But again, I mean, it was just the ugly head of ill discipline rearing itself up again, which is just a common fault. But obviously, you know, it's his first. I mean, I think he's filled in maybe once or twice, but
first proper game as captain.
Yeah, first proper game as captain. So it's something he'll learn and grow into. But I mean, sort of from his own as a player, it was one of his more average performances. But again, it was just a very average, flat Scotland performance, really. So I think he'll get better, but he was average like the rest of the team, really.
Craig, agree, disagree?
I would probably go a little bit further on that one and say I think he had a decent game. I agree with you, Ian. I think he stood out playing average than his normal self. He stood out a little bit. You know, there's a couple of good turnovers, a couple of good assists. I think he communicated well with the referee. The problem is you lose the referee, not because of how he's communicating with the referee, but because of all the bonehead penalties that kept getting given away. And no matter how much I love Pierre Schumann and how much I think he can fly, that is a bonehead decision to make.
Ironic.
But you know, then Sam Skinner steps through a ruck and picks a ball up as well and stuff like that. They're coach killers, you know. So I think if when you're giving away that many penalties, you've lost the referee anyway. So you know you've got to try and rein it back in again.
But we say lost that many penalties. Australia conceded more than us.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's fine.
We've lost the referee, but Australia have conceded more penalties. There is a question to be asked there.
Yeah, there is.
And you know, I just think decision making wise, like you can't ever mitigate for individual nonsense. Like the touch finding kick with Ollie Smith and various players just standing and looking at each other.
Yeah.
Was it Duhan? Yeah. Standing looking at each other. You take it, I'll take it, you take it. No, you take it. Oh, nobody took it. Like that is absolutely criminal behaviour. Criminal.
Yeah. That's just a team coming together though. That's okay, fair enough. Duhan's but Duran's not played Wally Smith very much, I don't think. So I think yes, I'm not. Please, I'm not playing that down, John. I'm absolutely not.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
But I think that's a glaringly obvious mistake. But
it's a mistake. It's not a coaching issue. It's not a captaincy issue. It's a mistake. I can get on board with that. Like, yes, you're taught from a very young age. You call it, it's your ball. If you can see it, it's your ball. Yeah. So the fact neither of them have said that's my ball is, for me, a really bad indication. But
and where my probably my biggest disagreement with you is that when you're saying that Jamie, he was obviously talking with his leadership group about what they're going to do with the ball when they get a penalty. Yes. And if Blair's not kicking very well, that's fair enough. But I don't actually think that's something that's going through Blair's mind. And I know that you're saying that he said no at one point on the park, etc. But it could have been they could have been asking, "Are you chafing there? Is your boots fitting you properly?" You don't know what's being asked of him. What I would say is what was more disappointing was the fact that they took the opportunity to kick to touch, and they then didn't fire.
Yeah.
On that people are constantly, oh well, Blair didn't want to kick the ball, so he kicked the ball at the touch. So no, you don't really know what's going on the pitch. What I'm more disappointed is forget about the decision. The biggest disappointment I have was the execution afterwards.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If the execution comes off, you were looking at it and it's a tight game, and that's why people are questioning it. It's not because, like, if we lost 20 points, lost by 20 points to Australia, or we won by 10 points, we won by a point. No one is giving a hoot about that kick in front of the posts, right? No one is coming back. No one's questioning it. It's the nature of this level of sport that we lose a game by a point, and every little decision does get analysed. And I'm saying that from a person who is doing exactly that. For me, like, I would have put more money on us getting 3 points there and keep the scoreboard going than I would have backed our line out. But that is obviously a coaching decision, a captaincy decision, senior leadership. They've obviously made that call. I think it was the wrong call, and that was prior to them making a mess of it. But that's just the nature of it. And
then I think it was the right call.
Yeah, exactly.
Prior to that. And I don't know what Ian's thinking, but that line out comes off, and we score off a rolling maul. That everyone's what a fantastic decision,
Well, here's actually that was a point I was about to make. Even when we did complete a line out, and the maul has been, we know how many tries that Turner and Rambo and all that have scored. The maul went absolutely nowhere.
It was static.
Yeah. And the maul was disappointing.
And that was a target of the team beforehand, because Australia's maul in the Rugby Championship had been absolutely eviscerated by teams. And I think we often look at, and I think this actually ties really nicely, and we'll finish up just after this, Craig, but this ties in beautifully with a point you made. I think we do think our forwards are better than they are, in that we look at South Africa and New Zealand, absolutely, and Argentina, who have a decent forward pack as well, blasting Australia off the park in the maul. And we go, well, that's exactly how we should target them, forgetting that we are neither of those teams, none of those teams. We do not have the forward power that those teams have. So it does strike me as perhaps naive, but you know what? We'll live and learn. And just another day.
We'll learn from this. We'll go again.
Well, that's what I was going to go for.
And just a little comment. I see that Hamish Allen is asking about should Callum Hunter-Hill be
Absolutely
in the mix,
not.
given his form for Sarries. I think he's playing incredibly well for Sarries, and that's been the best move he's ever had from Edinburgh to Sarries. I think he's done very, very well. But I've got a feeling he's more of a club player than he is a Scotland player.
I've got a feeling that Callum might be persona non grata up north, and he might not find himself back in the Scotland setup at any point. So Callum will do well to have a great career down south, enjoy himself down at Sarries, and be one of those players. There'll always be questions, but I don't think Callum will be coming back north anytime soon.
No.
And we'll not go into the reasons for that. Right, it has been an absolute pleasure. We've given you an hour and 7 minutes. Oh, you lucky beggars. If you desire to come and join us for Patreon, get yourself signed up like in the next 3 minutes. I'll keep an eye on the site, and if you sign up, I'll let you in. If not, yeah, I'm not telling you, Hamish. I'm not telling you. We'll be back next week. We'll be looking to review what will hopefully be some absolutely epic Fiji game. We might even have, hopefully, some amazing news during the week. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's Scottish Rugby. You know what it's like. But for now, we're going to head off over to our Patreon, where we are going to unleash hell like Pantera once did. It's going to be beautiful. So we will see the Patreons over there. The rest of you guys have a lovely, lovely week, and we will see you all next week. It has been a pleasure. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Craig. Good night and goodbye.
Catch you.